Let's talk about what's happening in the nation's capital. The D.C. Police Department, they've been using social media to get the word out about their missing young girls, black and brown girls, posting profiles of those young sisters. Now, members of the Congressional Black Caucus have gotten involved, sending a letter last week urging Attorney General Jeff Sessions and FBI Director James Comey to, quote, devote the resources necessary to determine whether these developments are an anomaly or whether they are indicative of an underlying trend that must be addressed. Now, according to the D.C. Police Department, as of Friday, March 26th, there were 523 reported juvenile missing cases. All but 13 of those have been solved. This has been blowing up social media, Tom. Folks talking about missing black and brown girls in D.C. So we reached out to the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, to get an understanding of what's actually going on. Mayor Bowser, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Roland. How are you? Hi, Tom.
So let's get right to it. So social media has been crazy. You've been questioned by different people. Folks have been saying that these young sisters are missing, are being kidnapped. Exactly what is going on in the nation's capital when it comes to these reported missing young girls?
Well, there have been no kidnappings or abductions. No one is being snatched from the street. You got it quite right. And that at the beginning of this year, we decided to publicize all of our missing persons reports for children in the same way. Prior to that, we had only publicized and asked for the public's assistance if we thought there was foul play involved. Now we post all critically missing children, and that these children have left home. We feel that they're not safe if they're not in the care of a caring adult or their parent or guardian. So we want the public's help in helping us locate them. They're boys and girls.
So of the folks that have been posted thus far, how many have been returned, or are they still missing?
There are children located every day, and I think your number was right from Friday that there were 6 juveniles, 6 boys. 13 juveniles, 6 boys, and 7 girls.
But we have had issues in this area of young folks coming up missing, and also across the country. The Black and Missing Foundation, we've had them on the show as well. We've talked about how African Americans disproportionately over-index when it comes to the number of missing folks across this country, numbering upwards of 40%.
That number may be true, and that, as you seem to suggest, there's no particular issue in Washington, D.C. This is an issue that affects jurisdictions across our nation. And what we are trying to focus on is making sure, number one, that we locate kids who are away from home. And they could be away from home for any number of reasons. But we know with a vulnerable child that may be staying with friends or relatives or couch surfing or maybe walking and wandering on the street, that's not a safe place for them. So we want them to give us a call so that we can put them in the care of a caring adult. So that's very important. But also we want those kids, before they even think about leaving home, to talk to a teacher, a counselor, somebody at church, somebody in the neighborhood, because we can make sure they have the services that they need.
Roland, why do you think, Roland, why do you think our black children are publicized like, say, a John Benet Ramsey?
Because they're black. The reality is, in media, white executives, white male executives control the apparatus. And when a white girl comes up missing, or a white woman, they see their wives, their daughters, their nieces, and they don't see black women in this way. The only time, typically when a black woman comes up missing, or a black girl, the only time the national media really focuses on it is after you've had massive protests and they've been embarrassed to do so. And I think, Mayor Bowser, that's one of the issues here. The reason African Americans have been so sensitive to seeing these Twitter posts from the D.C. Police Department is because we understand the history of our children come up missing. Many of us who became of age in the late 70s and 80s remember what happened in Atlanta with African Americans coming up missing. And one of the most untold stories of that was the number of black girls who were found dead, who were involved in human sex trafficking. And we're still seeing that in terms of what's happening with human sex trafficking even today, Mayor Bowser.
Well, and I think that what all jurisdictions in the media should take note that we've kind of shifted that paradigm. So we said we want to put the word out about our kids, despite the fact that we don't believe that there was foul play involved in these cases. We don't believe that anybody was kidnapped, and we don't suspect human trafficking. But what we know is that if you have these young kids out wandering, they can be susceptible to people who will prey on them. So it's important to get them home and get them home.
What was the task force you created on Friday? What is that task force?
It does a couple of things. It gives our police department, the missing persons unit. We had a new leadership there, which is why we changed strategies, and we want to give that unit more resources to help locate the kids quicker and get them home quicker. It also sets up a protocol for the police department because we want to make sure when we locate the kids, we're returning them to a safe environment. And, quite frankly, home may not be safe for them. That's why they're leaving. So we are trying to setting up a protocol so we can be sure that we're returning them to a safe environment. And lastly, we're going to provide some additional funding to some trusted nonprofits that have a good history of working with vulnerable kids so that we're doing more outreach and hopefully preventing kids from leaving home.
Are Amber Alerts being given at the same rate for black children as they are for white children?
Now, I can't speak to you about national trends. I think the Center for Missing and Exploited Children may be better for that. This is a new strategy for us that it doesn't have the same protocols as an Amber Alert because Amber Alerts is generally given if there's foul play involved or suspected. But this is another way for us to amp up the attention for kids who don't normally get any attention when their parents don't know where they are.
Well, let me tell our audience this on the Time Journal Morning Show, on TV One, on our social media. We're going to make sure that when our black girls and boys come up missing, that we're going to amplify their voices. We're not going to wait on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and the rest of the networks to catch up because we must take care of our own. Mayor Muriel Bowser, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hug you next. 26 past the hour.
All right, then. I want to go to our panel real quick here before I go to the break. This continues to be a major issue across the country, and I think we got to accept that reality in terms of what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know why. There was sort of an assumption she was emphasizing there with regard to not knowing whether or not these kids were abducted. Yeah. There's no evidence one way or the other, and when the Atlanta child murder case started, that was the same sort of thing. They assumed that they had run away, and apparently, it was a criminal activity.
Right.
So it's sort of
what you're seeing is the same thing that we've seen from before, since the 80s. Less value ascribed to black lives, and that is a shame. And it's unfortunate, but we need to be stepping up and paying attention and raising the awareness for the entire country that all people matter. But in this particular case, this is another example of the devaluation of black lives, particularly young black girls, young black women.
And the reality is, D.C., Maryland is a huge human sex trafficking corridor.
Yeah,
absolutely. You have to assume the worst and hope for the best. And you also have to make sure that you have the FBI, you have the federal government that has a far reach beyond your district throughout the entire U.S., because if it is human trafficking or other elements, you want to be able to use the federal law enforcement's reach.
There comes a point where we have to treat our black kids and we treat our white kids. Social media has amplified this, and I think we wouldn't be having a discussion without social media. I think government needs to.
We will.
We would be.
We would.
We would be, but the greater media market wouldn't be having a discussion without social media amplifying it, without our influencers amplifying it. I think there's more that we can do. I think there's more that government can do. I know Governor Hogan has made it a priority to deal with human trafficking in Maryland.
I know. Black Caucus requested the FBI, and it was a good thing they did because the closure rate in D.C. is not very good for crimes, for violent crimes.
Yep. All right, then. Again, and of course, as you know, here on NewsOne Now, we had the show for a while called Find Our Missing. And since we launched this show in November 2013, we've made that point perfectly clear. Guys, you should be able to roll that graphic. And so anytime these things come to our attention, you're going to see us on NewsOne Now Be sure to put the photo, the name, all the information about any young girl or young boy who's African American who's missing, because again, we're not interested in waiting on somebody else to tell our story. We could actually tell our own story. And so when you see this graphic come up, that's going to be the alert that we'll use anytime one of ours comes missing. All right, folks.
A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. Your hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not gonna let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.